So a quick little video on what are you reaffirming in your life. It's so important that we become aware of what we are reaffirming throughout our day. What are we aligned with? What are we thinking about? What kind of nature of thoughts are we having? And the dialogue we're having with ourselves. What are we aligning with? Are we in a state of always worrying about what's going to be what's going to happen? Are we in a state of moving into the future and thinking about the next moment? Are we talking kindly to ourselves? What kind of conversations are we having with ourselves? Are we reaffirming the good within us? Are we reaffirming the love and the life that we are, or are we reaffirming, you know, the beliefs in of not being good enough, or the beliefs of not feeling like you're good enough to receive, you're worth enough to receive. Like, what are you reaffirming on a day-to-day basis? It's so important that we understand this dialogue that we're having with ourselves, because if we're going to have a voice, a conversation happening within our heads, then we've at least got to get the nature of that conversation right. I mean, ideally, from my perspective, don't have a conversation in your head. Become so fully aware of the nature of your being, so fully aware of what you truly are in your divinity, in your consciousness, in the essence of who you are, that you don't even need a thought. Because the awareness of that is so powerful and so reaffirming. But if you are having a conversation in your head, then you've really got to look at the nature of the conversation, because that conversation is the formulation of who you think you are, when in truth you are much beyond that conversation. But unless you question the conversation, you can't step outside the conversation, you can't understand the dialogue. You have to turn this internal light on. You have to become so self-aware that not a thought comes into your mind where you don't know where that's from. Your every single pattern of behavior, every single pattern of thinking that you have, you understand on every level. So you understand, okay, this is, my unworthiness. That comes from the past. That comes because maybe I was brought up into an environment where I wasn't actually validated for the person that I was. So you've really got to question the story in your head, the narrative in which you are speaking to yourself, because whatever you are speaking to yourself, you are empowering. Not only are you empowering, but it's the nature in which you speak to yourself, which you are projecting and seeing the world through. I mean, how many people have a real straight conversation with you that say the most important thing that you can understand is where you're at mentally and emotionally? Because I can only speak from my own experience, and what made my life just so beautiful and so harmonious is when I understood the voice in my head. I understood what I was telling myself. I understood the conversations that I was having, instead of just being the conversation without ever questioning it. This is where the true change comes. This is where a whole level of awareness of yourself comes from. If you really want to find that which brings you contentment, that which brings you joy, if you really want to find your purpose, if you want to really find your expression, if you really want to be attuned your to a harmony that's beyond all understanding, then you have to journey inside. You have to start with the basics, start with the very fundamentals of your experience, and that is the nature of your conversation. Because when we question the nature of the conversation and the narrative in our head, we begin a journey that will bring you to a realization that you are beyond any narrative you have playing out in your mind. You are beyond it all. And when you realize that, when you realize the truth of love, the truth of abundance, the truth of the infinite nature that you are, then you will sing and dance your way through life, and you will watch life perform miracles in your existence. That's the power. That's the power of what you are. But to realize that begins with realizing the kind of conversations we're having in our head. Till next time, much love.